this meeting to order, the Upshur County Board of Education. All members are present except Jan Craig, who is by phone. Thank you, Lord. Let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, approval of the agenda adjustments and/or agenda addendums? Addendums?
Yes.
Addendums?
Yes.
Get my tongue out my taste.
As presented tonight.
As presented tonight.
Yes, so we'd have nothing to change.
Okay, thank you. Information?
We need to approve the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
All in favor of approving
We
the
have to have
agenda?
someone has to motion.
Oh, somebody has to motion.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Got that?
I got it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Ayes have it.
Yeah. Just call on Mr. Perico.
Mr. DeRico.
You're on.
Good evening. This is our first calendar hearing for the 25-26 calendar. And for the new board members down on the end, just to give you a little bit of background, some of the others have heard repetitively, but because we share the technical center with Fred Everly, or with the other counties for Fred Everly, we collaborate with Barber and Lewis on the calendar so we can be consistent for kids, that they're not missing instruction. Typically, Fred Everly follows the Upshur County calendar, so if we were having school and Lewis and Barber were not, then those kids would miss out on days. For certification purposes, that comes into play some, but for the most part, for the last 15, longer than that probably, there's been some consistency in that, and trying to maintain that is probably paramount. Mrs. Call is part of that committee with the folks from Barber and Lewis. And because Lewis shares an elementary school with Gilmer, that brings them into the fold. And then because Gilmer shares a shares a technical center with Calhoun County, that brings them into the fold. So we have 5 counties ultimately that rely on our calendars to be somewhat consistent and work best for students at the same time. The other factor that comes into play a lot is consistency for our families and trying to maintain that consistency so that they know what to expect. There's no curveballs, so to speak, for vacations or spring breaks or things like that. The calendar that I handed out, there was one in the back, but we had a slight change from one of the county suggestions previously, and we all had come to that conclusion it might be better. And I'll get to explain what that change was in a moment. But the current calendar that we have for 24-25 is almost identical to this calendar. There are not many differences. Timing of some things changed the dynamics of it slightly, but not greatly. The 200-day employees would start on August the 11th and end on June the 5th. And the student start date would be the 14th of August, and they would finish on the 29th of May. One thing that is, I would point out about the start of school on that 14th, that is, I like to call it a soft opening. We plug a PL day in there for a half a day. So students would come for a half a day of instruction, and the afternoon would be considered staff development or professional learning day. And that is, the whole day is counted as instructional day, but at the same time, it kind of gives us a chance to run buses, full routes. You're serving all your meals. Everything would work. It kind of gives schools a chance to open and find out if there are any issues that they would encounter. Another thing about the start of school is that it's not by chance that it starts on a Thursday or midweek. That's so that you kind of have a couple of days of running everything and make sure it works out well. And if you have to make changes, then come Monday, you're kind of rolling a little bit. You've got things a little smoother. There is a full week at Thanksgiving. Those days, of course, I think there have been calendars years ago that were tried that included instruction there, and that creates a lot of strain in different areas of our system.
That's a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this one the new one
If it has an OS day before Veterans Day.
right here on the, on
Yes,
11?
that's
Okay,
the
that's the
correct-
new one.
yeah.
That's,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so that's
And
the
that was the
difference.
change that we had,
Okay.
being a Monday prior to a holiday, absenteeism for staff and students is a problem. So if we can eliminate one of those opportunities, then we can.
Question on Thanksgiving break.
Okay?
Is the Friday, it is not a holiday for the school system?
It is not in, there's 7 holidays in the school calendar. Typically, in the last 8 years, the governor has made it a state holiday. And I always joke and say, as soon as the governor makes it a state holiday, we become county employees.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's a kind of a nuance that people don't understand is when the governor declares a state holiday, it does not necessarily impact us.
So what I do, Mr. Parker, so you know, what I do is, once our calendar is approved, I do request that we look at those holidays and ask for additional days for our employees, 240 and up.
Okay.
So that, and it ends up being, Black Friday does end up being a holiday most years.
Because, you know, if I'm not mistaken, statutorily, it's observance of Lincoln's birthday.
They never celebrated Lincoln's.
No.
So,
We have President's Day.
for county governments and such.
Yeah, yeah, and we don't, unfortunately, we don't get to observe that.
All right.
We've never.
The 7 in the code are listed there in the middle down at the bottom. Those are the only 7 the school calendar guidance gives you any provision for. And another one that has been questioned in the past is Juneteenth, now on June 19th, and it has not been included in the school holidays to date. So 240 days employees will work that day, with June 20th being observance for West Virginia Day. 2 full weeks of Christmas for students. Staff would come back on Friday, January the 2nd for a professional meeting day. We had something similar to that this year with the entire staff for the county here in the auditorium. Well, we had 3 different setups, but in transition, but that was valuable to our teaching staff. And then if you look at the week of May 11th, that week, if there's anything in this calendar I'm not truly fond of, or I think that I truly do not know how to do it better. We have the Strawberry Festival on the 15th. That's a nuance to our calendar, and that's one thing that I would point out that the other counties, each county has their own nuances that they have to tend to. Barber County takes off the Friday before Labor Day because of their fair. So basically, we trade that OS day. For them, it would be in September and August, and ours is May 15th. Election day being in the same week creates, an issue with that Monday, so we plugged an OS day in there prior to the election day. And then that just leaves 2 instructional days that week, which is tough. I mean, that's tough in the classroom and it's tough everywhere, but making 3 is only gonna make an attendance problem on Monday. With that being said, Easter falls a little earlier this year, April 5th, and spring break would precede it, and faculty would come back on the 6th, the Monday after Easter, and that would be Professional Learning Day. The students will be out also the day after Easter. This also kind of accommodates our testing schedule as far as statewide summative testing for elementary, middle, and high. Each programmatic level is kind of accommodated by this. Once we come back from spring break, you can see there's several blocks of days there in a row for instruction and testing. And that's to tidy up things before we start missing and having issues in May. Questions that you might have?
I just have one.
Yes, ma'am.
On that, January 2nd,
Yes.
that's a in-service for teachers, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so, do you guys have or maybe I should ask, Mrs. Miller.
That's okay.
Is that day that you guys do like a teacher in-service type of thing?
Yes, that's what we do.
Professional learning.
Yeah, I guess my only concern is there a lot of absenteeism, like, on that date? Like, I'm,
Yeah. we-
as far as spending a lot of money on a speaker is what I'm saying,
Mm-hmm.
to come in, because people are gonna typically take personal leave or whatever on
So
that, so,
this year, it was amazing how full this auditorium actually was because
Really?
it was a horrible, horrible day
Snow day.
that started to snow.
Right.
And this place was full. And in fact, most of the feedback on the day was, "We're glad we came. Get them back."
Okay.
So they had an overall speaker at the beginning, and then we broke into 3 separate groups that day so that they could get some more work individualized.
So you did have enough to.
Oh, yeah.
To justify. Okay.
Yes. Our as a group, our bus drivers they love this group that we're working with right now. That's good. Oh, they love him. Good.
Not that it pertains to next year's calendar, but under the current calendar, and just to give you an idea, we had 4 instructional days that were full instructional days in January. And that's tough. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's been a while since we've had a winter like that. They've happened before. And I think our staff knows that we've got to kind of make up for that lost time. And I think there's a little bit of urgency on teachers to do that. I will say also that I think that with the accrued time, that lessens that impact a good bit. I think that it's valuable to us as far as makeup days and things like that, as far as not extending the calendar when you don't have to.
Right.
One thing I didn't point out, the first semester ends at Christmas, and it's 5 days shorter. It's 85 days, and the second semester is 95. There's 10 days difference. But, typically, we look at 90 as being that halfway point, but for secondary, from a secondary background, I'll tell you that it's valuable, and this year would have been a good reason of why that's valuable, because we would just now be taking semester exams, if you looked at it from that perspective. And that, from a high school perspective, that's alarming. I mean, you can't expect kids to retain that information. You bring them back and you try to review and make up exams and stuff.
So the last day for kids would be June, right before Memorial Day.
After the week of Memorial Day.
Oh, there's Memorial Day
May
there.
29th,
Okay, so they go 4 days after.
yes. And, there's a thought about ending before Memorial Day, but that takes that August date back further, and that makes it, makes you start sooner. It's not scientific by any means as far as developing a calendar. When it comes to those people, there has always been the sentiment that you should start after Labor Day and end before Memorial Day. I can make that work in this calendar, but then you're not gonna have as much at Christmas, you're not gonna have Thanksgiving or spring break. I mean, it will fit, but it will not look nice, and that's not what we're accustomed to.
And we made it.
Any other questions? This is a hearing. We're open for all questions.
I saw the NTID is on the agenda, but it's going to be the next,
Meeting.
Yes.
I'll be here for that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a separate puzzle. We look at our accrued time. That's the only way that we can actually do that. We cannot operate NTID days, which for a lot of folks, it looks like it's 5 extra free snow days that we don't have to make up, but they do count as a day of instruction. And so the calendar pieces that we get that they send from the department hasn't changed anything in it. We just have to make sure that instructional time is going to meet that need.
And for accrued time, the school with the least amount of accrued time has to at least be 30 minutes. And we are just at that. If it's less than 30 minutes, you cannot have that accrued time. And we're blessed that we're able to do that with our busing schedule and school schedules to be able to make that work. And that's why it hasn't changed much over the last few years, is we've had a lot of positive comments, over time, and the other counties as well. And we will meet, the other counties typically get together after the first hearing, second hearing. I would ask that after the second hearing, we would just ask for approval the same night, but, Barber County, I understand, has already finished their second.
Yes.
Approved their calendar last night. She sent it to me today, they're contacted, and it matches this, other than the difference with the Labor Day weekend they have for their fair.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Dorico. Move for adjournment. Do I have a move for adjournment from this special meeting?
So moved.
I'll
Sec-
second.
Moved by Roy Ranger, seconded by Susan King. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? This meeting is adjourned. Now we wait for the second meeting.